my next interview, I'm very pleased to have with us JohnPace. John is somebody that I've worked with for many, many years. I can go back. I don't want to give your age away too much, John, but I go back to the early 80s, I think, with Roger Bell, and then later on into the 90s where we started working together. And John,
yeah,
he's been in the industry a long time. He's worked at some of the biggest agencies in the country. He's set up his own agencies with different people, and to this day has his own agency at Pace. So, John, just to get started with, just fill us in a little bit about yourself and what those early days of advertising were like for you and how you got into it.
Well, I have to say, Craig Cocroft's been posting all these historical pictures at Rightford, Siltrip and Macon, which was actually my second job in advertising, because I worked for Bates, Wells and Kennedy for 3 months. And Brian Siltrip came to poach me, and which he did. I studied at Durban Technikon, and I grew up in Zambia. So when you leave Zambia, you don't really know much. You don't really know what advertising is, or magazines or stuff like that. And I suppose I just had a talent creatively, and I didn't know what to do with it. So went and studied graphic design and joined Rightford, Siltrip and Macon in 1982. And I worked there twice. I worked there for 4 years and then another 7. And then I'd met Matthew Bull, and I went off with Ian Calvert, Matthew Bull. Well, Matthew went off, and then he called me to come and be the art director of Global Calvert Pace, which I was involved with for 8 years. And then I decided I didn't like advertising anymore.
Yeah,
I wasn't after the.
What led to that?
I wasn't. I just think that first of all, when you joined Rightford, Siltrip and Macon, for me it was the most unbelievably creative place that I could ever wish to be at. But the creative bar was very, very high, and some people could achieve it and some people didn't. I think I was a much better art director in print than I was at conceptual thinking for quite a long time. And I actually understood more about conceptual thinking when I met Matthew Bull, because I would ask him how he had this idea, and then he'd tell me how he'd drift off somewhere to go and find it. So I learned a lot in that process. And then there were other greats around me. There was Greg Burke, there was John Schubert's, all super, super creative people. They really were brilliant. Roger Macon. And I think that the bar in those, there was so much television to do as well. It was fast. It was fast. It was hard. I mean, you'd give up an Easter weekend for a pitch just like that. You would just do it, And it was everything for the glory of advertising. And then I think as I got older, it was weighing me down a bit. I wasn't the smartest cookie in the agency by a mile. And I'd always done design. Even at Rightford's, I did the brochure work. So I kind of had a love for design, kind of without me knowing. It's a bit like discovering much later that I could paint,
Yeah. Wow.
So after about 8 years with Global, I just thought, you know what? I just don't want to do this. The bar was high. The agency was new. Everyone was after the Grand Prix in every category, and that's just not for me. Thank you very, very much.
And do you think?
And I've done, yeah.
I was thinking you're talking about I called him. I mentioned it to Peter Southworth when I was chatting to him, and sort of the heady days of advertising. It was. I don't know how it is. Do you think? What do you think has changed so much from that time to now? I mean, when you look at advertising now and you look at advertising then, and the whole thing, is there any major changes that you see over that time?
I think you probably find someone like Alistair King would be better to answer that. For myself, I grew up as a print outdoor TV man. I mean, that's the category we were in. And it was even before this wonderful computer I'm staring at. So art directors learn to draw beautifully and craft the work. And I think that's what we got out of the industry. I think when the digital came along, I remember Tinderbox starting, and it was a hell of a weird for me, this new media. And it's like I'm an old craftsman, and that I mean, I have to do a little bit of it now, but I don't understand much. I think what's happened is the budgets have been splintered into lots of little pieces. And agencies aren't getting big slices of pie anymore where they used to. And agencies got rich. And I think it's much harder today, because you're outsourcing to various people as well.
But do you think some of these guys, I mean, I look in just from the photographic side, from what I've done, and I think, you would have worked with Roger Bell, and I was his apprentice for 4 years. And there was a hell of a lot on the craft. Do you think that the guys now look in photography, but I think also in design, and that it would help them to go back and actually learn that, and it would improve their trade now? Or do you think it's just the way it is now and that's it?
No, I think the newbies have learned to craft on computer and really magnificent work. There's always going to be a difference between a real etching, a real woodcut, a silk screen, a painting, and a piece of digital art. But I mean, there's some great illustrator companies in Cape Town now, but it's all digital, which I can't do at all, because I think you've got to dedicate yourself to that machine, and you've got to dedicate yourself to the tools that you're learning or trying to learn.
Photography, we were forced into that to a large extent, because
you were actually. You
just weren't going to survive. I mean, I know a lot of guys who try to stick to their guns, and at the end of the day, they're not shooting now because they just want it. And kudos to them, not knocking them at all. But for us, commercial world, if you don't know Photoshop and you can't actually get around a digital camera and stuff, you're just not going to be able to survive.
I think that's what you did very well. I mean, there's kind of two things for me about you. The one side is your creative side, but the other side is your business side. And you've always had a bit of a business mind in trying to refresh something or start something or build something. So, which has been quite amazing to watch, because, as they say, you're still here.
We're still doing it. We're still trying, even with
So am I. I can tell you.
We're just talking about that, and you've got your Achat, your is it do you do mainly just design work, or do you offer a sort of through the line service? Or is it mainly design?
Well, I had to do a bit of a fib, really, because I said design and communication, because I wasn't going to end an advertising career, and then someone says, "Can you do a TV commercial?" I said, "No, I don't do TV," because I have got the skills to do it.
Yes.
In fact, when I started at Pace, I actually did have some breweries business. I had Sarita and Brutal Fruit. So we actually still did TV in those days. Even in the early days when I had Coronation, I shot with Keith Rose, actually, the Vincent van Gogh TV commercial where he cuts his ear off.
At 22,500,000. At 25 million. $50 million. At $82 million. Last time at $82,500,000.
They would not listen. They did not know.
Over the years, we've been spotted as a packaging design firm, and we contracted with Heineken actually. On a very tight budget, I can tell you. But what we do is we work for about 10 different breweries in Africa, and we upgrade packaging and we design from scratch. But it's been good for us.
Africa is an interesting one. I mean, I've worked quite a lot with agencies that have worked into Africa and mainly on liquor accounts, and there's still a lot. I mean, billboards are massive, and print and that seems to be a huge market.
I think that's where all the money is.
Absolutely. I mean, they've got growth rates are far higher than ours here. I mean, they're running 6-7% growth rates. We can't even get above half.
That's right. And there's always going to be a liquor war between Heineken and InBev and and Bacardi and all those guys. They're going to just keep hammering away for market space and market and shelf. And so for me, I mean, I think that certainly in my business, I've got lots of different clients. I've got some quite small ones. I've got some very pretty ones. I've had Klein Constantia for 20 odd years now, which is just a treat, actually. It's a treat.
It's amazing when a
It's
client
like,
can stick with you like that. You know, there's nothing like that sense of loyalty that people have. I mean, it's great when you can get that.
yeah.
And are there any particular campaigns that you can think of over the years, or with what you're doing now, that have really stuck out as something? I mean, you mentioned earlier the Van Gogh one. Is there? I know you've definitely won awards and things over the years. Is it something that's really stuck out in your mind as something that you really enjoyed doing?
Yeah, I think from an advertising point of view, I really enjoyed working on Carney Black Label. I mean, I worked on it with John Schubert's for 5 years or 6 or 7 years, and we made 5 TV commercials and it was with Rob Hill, who more refreshment, more reward at the end of the day. But what was fantastic for me, I mean, I was just in my early 30s, and I was working with Miles Goodall, and I was working with Giant Films, but we were shooting movie-style commercials.
There's a team of men who do a special job.
We shot in Katsi Dam. We went up to Lesotho and shot in Katsi Dam when it was getting finished. Amazing. Hauling huge cranes around in front of the camera. I mean, those were just, when the work was finished, it looked like a movie. It didn't look like a commercial. So that was very special.
Building a miracle to bring water to our land. We are building a future. We are building it by hand. Hide the sun in blazes. We build, we work, we build. Deep the muscle stream. We build, we work, we build.
I thoroughly enjoyed working on Audi. I was around for the launch of the A4, A8, A6, and that was good work. It was good time. In my company, now that I'm doing design, there's a few pieces of work that have shone for me forever. One of them is a little jar of honey, where the concept was for Klein Constantia it was just a gift from the honey that they produced. And the concept was, I made the box look like a white beehive with a little bee sticking out. Okay. But when you open the box, all the bees are printed on the inside of the box, and they're around the honey. And it was called the bee's knees. And it's been published a number of times, and I occasionally get some Chinese firm, or I've had a Portuguese firm wanting to use the design just because it was such a nice idea. And it's those little pieces for me that will stick forever, They're little, but they're big,
Absolutely. And it's great when you can come up with those ideas. And I just want to hop across a little bit to your other focus in life, and your painting. Which, I mean, I see your paintings that you pop up on Facebook and the different things. And they're absolutely incredible. I really got to commend you on your work. Are you managing to do with both the painting and the running a business? Are you focused to manage both?
It's an interesting question, because a lot of people think, how can you be doing both at the same time? But I was very fortunate to have won the 2015 Sunland Portrait Award for the painting of my son, Jack. And I was an outsider, I was a weekend artist. After that win, they gave me, part of the win was to paint for just under 2 years for an exhibition, which they were going to give me. And I did 12 paintings in 22 months. And it literally was every single weekend. Yeah. And that was what I chose to do. And my darling wife, Susan, who actually made me enter the Portrait Awards, because she said, it's only 250 Rand. Just enter a painting. So I painted, and then I had this exhibition, and it was an incredible experience. I mean, I didn't sell all of them. I probably sold about 5 out of 12, but it was fabulous. And it was quite nice because, being an art director, what I would do, I would find someone that was a pig farmer, but he looked like a pig farmer. Yeah. You kind of typecast your people for advertising. It's the same way. If if you want to find someone for a game of chess, you go and find a little chap with some glasses on the end of his nose. He's the chess player. So I was kind of applying my art direction to my subject matter. How I put the two together now is art has become absolutely integral to my happiness. Yeah. And sometimes I don't have a canvas on the easel, and then you forget about it for a while, and then you go, and then when you start again, you say, what the fuck? Why aren't you doing this just all the time? So what I do is this. I have my studio from Monday to Friday, which I go to work. I have a sleep every lunchtime between 1 and 2. And in summer, I will come home and I might get in a couple of hours on a painting. But on the Saturday and Sunday, I will probably paint most of Saturday and maybe the morning on Sunday, all the time.
How much are you in trouble, by the way?
I'm not. Susan's a hell of an independent, and she likes going shopping and taking Holly out and coming back with love. Susan is a magnificent chef. She is terrific. So, there's always something, in winter when you come home from dropping rubbish at the dump and you just smell the stew that's getting made and your classical music's on and you're painting. There is nothing in the world that I need. Nothing at all.
Sounds pretty idyllic.
And I can paint for 5 hours, huh?
Really? That's pretty,
yeah.
Pretty incredible. Yeah, because I've been doing a bit of painting recently as well, and it is, it is very therapeutic, I find. Nothing on your level or doing what you're doing. But one thing I have is I've been getting into the art world through my photography and doing my art. And I've got a few pieces behind me there that I've stuck up. So how have you found that world? Have you managed to break into it? Have you, how to get into the art world for a lot of artists? It's not an easy...
I don't know. It's a difficult question, that. But I'm actually very good friends with Dylan Lewis, the sculptor. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, galleries are tough, eh? They take 50%. Where I've been quite fortunate is that after my exhibition, I started getting commissions. And I had commissions for 18 months.
That's awesome. I mean,
now, what happens is, though, I paint for 2 whole months on the weekend, though. So I've got 2 commissions now that I haven't started. And I've had commissions for 18 months. I did get in touch with Evert Reed not so long ago. And they're snooty, eh? They are so snooty. I wrote really nice emails.
I'm very fortunate. I have a gallery that's actually far more reasonable that I've been exhibiting at. Rita at Gallery 111, and they have been great. So I've managed to get into that gallery and then the Exposure Gallery in the Biscuit Mill and been doing all right there. But what I found also really difficult is that to get into the art world is more about the narrative than the actual painting, and that I've struggled with, I must be honest, and I'm getting better at it. So if you can write a nice...
What do you mean by the narrative of it?
Well, it's the story about it. So for argument's sake, you do a really interesting photograph. I have an idea behind it when I do it, but if I can't give a good explanation of what it is, or if there isn't the whole narrative behind it, the story behind it, why you did it.
Okay, yeah.
I could look at that painting behind you. It's a beautiful painting, but somebody's going to, they're going to start saying, oh, I can see the mood, and I can, and you've got to have this whole, I don't want to say bullshit behind it, but it's almost like that. And that seems to be a lot of the artwork that I've seen that really gets into a lot of the galleries. It's more the story behind it than the actual artwork. And that's been a tough thing to break. Because when they look at it, you end up spending more time trying to explain the work than actually somebody looking at it. Well, can't you see for yourself?
What I've been battling with, one of my favorite artists is Lucian Freud. Mm-hmm. Okay, he was a portrait artist, and they thought he was history at some point. Everyone had moved on to contemporary art, and all he did was do portraits. But the style of the work and the brushstrokes that composed those portraits are absolutely remarkable. And he eventually became famous again. He became noticed again. If you look at Picasso started as a classical artist, in exactly where I am. Fortunately for him, his mind started heading off And actually, some of his paintings I think are bloody awful, but he's now Picasso. And I think galleries make you famous, because I'm not a conceptual painter. I've even tried, and it's not me yet. So I'm struggling to progress out of this painting and the cockerel, and I know they're nice because I know the hours and time I put in. They're exceptionally crafted pieces of work. Do people want to buy them? Yeah, I've had people already asking about how much is the cockerel, but I can't seem to do concept work, and maybe I never will, and maybe this is the way I'm going to be.
But does somebody need to do concept work? I mean, I look at this piece, and it's got a bit of reflection in it behind me here. So
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
got a pair of jeans on her. That's a whole lot of stuff. Now, on top of that series, I ended up in the gallery with the gallerist, and we ended up having a 2-hour conversation with her in tears about another work, not that particular one.
Yeah, yeah.
And she was a very strong feminist, and nothing that I have against feminists, by the way. It's just that she and I happened to photograph a model who was a very beautiful woman, and she got really upset that I had photographed this model and I'd put a small piece on her, and it was her going in a circle of light, basically, and it was one shot, but it was done with light painting, so she was constantly moving in this one shot. It wasn't a comp thing.
Yeah.
And it really bothered her that I had used a model. And I eventually got down to the point, and I said, so is a model not a real person? She says, yeah, but that isn't what every person looks like. Yeah, but that's what she looks like. And it was an argument about not whether it was a great photograph or a terrible photograph or whatever. I don't mind the opinion. Painting, where can we actually see the work? Have you got it up anywhere at the moment?
The one thing I do on Fridays, I go to Judy Woodbourne, and I go to an etching class, and I do etching. So I bunk work between 10:30 and 1:30, and I've done quite a lot of etchings, and I sell those, and they've been in the gallery. I'll tell you, a lot of my work is at the moment. It's actually in a closed restaurant. It's in Jules, one of Liam Tonham's restaurants out in Paarl. I did some fantastic, huge paintings of some Red Angus bull, which belongs to Fairview, and also all his pigs. I photographed all his pigs as well, and then I go and photograph my subject matter, and then choose the one that I think works, and then start painting. But no, I don't. I've got work up there, and it's for sale, but it's not cheap. I mean, the painting of the cows is 2.6 meters by a meter. I think that's the other thing, is that I don't know how to market myself, so to speak. And I think where I've been lucky is that because Jack's at a good school and there's a lot of parents, and due to that, I've got one client that's commissioned me 3 times, and I've got another client that's bought 3 paintings over time, Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, you talk about, I think that's the future of a lot of marketing. I mean, I think that's the way, we are now in lockdown, but I think people are going to be working from homes and things and communicating differently. And I think people are going to start doing that, generally in business all around.
Yes, I agree.
I think it's the future.
I agree.
Yeah. So it's, I think it's where we're moving. So John, look, I mean, it's been great chatting to you, and I just want to get to round this up now.
Yes.
We were chatting earlier, and one of the things in the ad world and in business in general now, I mean, the ad world, I think, has been incredibly volatile. I think people have lost their jobs throughout time. You see a client will have agency have massive client, and then they retrench people and they lose that client. And now we're in lockdown, and I think there's going to be a lot of people going into losing, a lot of people losing their jobs. For these young art directors, people who are wanting to get into the advertising industry and starting off now, is there any sort of thing that you can say to them, look, guys, get into it, but just be aware that it's very volatile. So maybe take these precautions, or any ideas or any advice you could just give to those young aspiring art directors, creative directors out there who are wanting to get into the painting world or the art world or the advertising world?
Look, I think if you've got a creative streak in you, you're a lucky person, because it's an absolute blessing. I mean, I can't imagine being in lockdown and not painting. I mean, I I have something to do every day. But I think that one of the things that's going to come out of lockdown is being more versatile, the opportunity of picking up your own clients and being freelance. Working from home is absolutely going to happen. I mean, my designers, I've got 3 designers all working from home. We have a status meeting on Monday morning, and away we go for the week. We're not hell of a busy, but I can suddenly start seeing that the business works perfectly well without renting my office, which, you know, I've been paying rent for 9 years. And I can imagine if I wasn't. And I think the other advice, because, you know, everything today is going to be about the economy, the money in your pocket, and what you can live off. And I think from day one, I think it's now essential to start saving from day one. And the old thing about the 2 or 3 different credit cards in your pocket, forget it. Because this is COVID-19 now. We don't know what's happening in 5 years' time. And I think if you cash flush, it's got to be the best place to be. And I don't think we come out of this and everyone's rushing off to buying new jeans and shoes and cool stuff. I think you're going to be paying for what you need and what you want. And my advice is get into the industry, love it, work hard, enjoy the creativity process. And there's lots of great designers out there. Gosh, there's just so many now. And I think one has to thank Adobe for producing the type of software that they've done, because it's just magnificent and you can teach yourself a lot. And the most important thing still is the idea comes first. Yeah. If you have a good idea, it's then about how to execute it.
That's absolutely true. I mean, John, that's just such invaluable advice. And actually just chatting to you and just, yeah, giving a sense of the industry and of your artwork and your personal life, I think is just also absolutely invaluable to a lot of people. And I'm sorry about that. And yeah, thanks so much for sharing that with us. And you guys out there who've been listening to this, as John said there, you know, the freelancers are going to be getting a chance. So let's all collaborate together, and that's also going to help.
Collaborate.
Yeah. And then that's going to help us.
That's right.
Yeah. So thanks.
You know, just another interesting side is that I now run the business like a skeleton business. We used to be bigger, but it cost more. Yeah. You needed more jobs just to pay the staff, which leaves you shopping for clients to pay the staff all the time. So now I've got a team that don't work for me. I've got 2 3D renderers. I've got photographers. I've got writers. They're all there at my disposal to work on the business that I've managed to put together. And I think that's going to be the way of the future. It's about the collaboration.
Well, I mean, John, I couldn't have said it better myself. And yeah, thank you so much. And thanks so much again. And I look forward to putting this up and getting it out to everybody, because I think everybody should listen to it. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. And to all of you that I know out there, love you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, John. Cheers.
Okay, cool.